Hi, welcome to another episode of Beyond Chronic Disease. My name is Wendy Gathercole. I'm your host of the show. And today I have Mal Stewart with me. Hi, Mal. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you? And how is everyone?
I'm good, and I hope the viewers are good as well. And the listeners, of course. I have YouTube and Spotify. Okay, so welcome to the Access Foundation series, and I've asked Mal on to contribute to the series, and he graciously accepted. So thank you, Mal.
Thank you for the invitation.
We're talking access consciousness and the foundation, and by now everyone should know what access consciousness is, but if you don't, go on to www.accessconsciousness.com. And the foundation series started a few weeks ago with an access consciousness facilitator, certified facilitator, Ashlee-Rose, explaining in all her beautiful words what the foundation was all about. And what I think it's all about for me is just wiping all that crap out of my head and then resetting me, which is what it did for me recently. So Mel and I met at a recent foundation retreat at the Sunshine Coast, and I have explained what went down for me there. Completely was in a funk when I got there, and I just couldn't get out of it. I've studied lots of different modalities, and I could get little bits and pieces of me back, but until I attended the foundation retreat, I didn't feel normal. So it was very profound for me in one of the days there. So Mal, how long have you, what brought you to access consciousness in the first place? How did you find it?
They kind of found me. I had a bars facilitator that knew my personal trainer, and I think she was only just starting out doing bars. And she said, come and try this thing called the bars. So I went along. It was off the record, so it was just come and try this thing. And this is about 2016, 15, I think it was, somewhere thereabouts. Anyway, so I went along and tried the bars, and because I've been through quite a few different modalities as well, I was kind of trying to understand how it worked a bit. And then after that class, she had a proper registered bars class. So that was my first official bars day. And I kind of felt a bit better. And then there was a bit of a gap, and then I decided to do my first foundation class, and that was about 2017.
So
and
sorry.
And that was quite good. I got a lot out of it, but it wasn't until my second foundation where it kind of really opened the blinkers, and I cleared a lot of stuff in that second one in Toowoomba with Cindy Fillet. She's an amazing facilitator as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're all amazing facilitators, but I managed to just blow open so many cobwebs and demons. It wasn't funny at that one. It was so amazing.
Can I just let the listeners know, because we're talking about changing and all this sort of all these little bits and pieces, but nothing specific. So for me, it's all the stuff that we're being taught, that we hold in our head, that we think's all true and real and right and wrong and so forth. And access brings a new awareness, is making you aware of certain things that aren't so true sometimes for us. And and we can get out of our heads and more into just doing what we're here to do, I guess. So
Yeah.
were you a bit like didn't know where you were at, Mel, or just had a few issues going on there? I mean, you don't have to get into anything that you
I had
don't want to. Just
I,
something that
I had a I've always had a open mind towards spirituality,
mm-hmm,
mental development, self-development. I've read quite a few books and done a few different modalities. But it's not until you go and do something like foundation where you just, it's a totally different way of thinking. And I think for me, it was a lot of validations that I put on how I feel that I should based on what other people thought. And so for me, I lost my left eye to a detachment when I was a baby. But it was never really explained to me. So there was this big void of understanding of why I felt different to everyone else. And whenever I tried to talk to my parents about it, they would try and sweep it under the carpet. So I sort of felt alone, and it wasn't until I was in my 40s where I actually spoke to my GP and asked him about it, because he brought me into the world. And he said he remembered it very well, and and the specialist couldn't work out why it happened. It was just one of those freaks of things. But and that was before I discovered access. And that kind of opened my eyes to, oh, okay, well, obviously my parents didn't know, if the doctors didn't know. So but there was this big 40 years of carrying this pain of the unknown, and why that had to come out. And it was that foundation that really opened that and cleared a lot of that.
So did it clear, like for me, sometimes it clears the why, like, because we don't really need to know the why sometimes, hey, or anytime really. And I think like once you get to that point where you don't really need to know why it's happened, and like you said, nobody, you sort of thought that your parents were fobbing you off, but they didn't really know anyway. So it's just like a perception that we take on, like, why aren't these people telling us, and so forth, and what's wrong with us? But there's really nothing wrong with us, is there?
No, as I've learned, it's actually a gift, because I'm a kind and generous person, and because of this uncertainty, I kind of hide myself away from the world, thinking that I don't want to ruffle feathers, I don't want to create disease, but I'm actually creating the disease in myself. So now that I've done a few foundations, each one since that second one has just given me more space and more space. And this last one with Ashlee being a retreat style, I just found this ease that I've never felt before. And
awesome.
And just being amongst the other people in the class, it was, I didn't say quite as much this time as I have in the past, but I was definitely with everyone. All the questions people were asking were questions that I've asked in previous ones. So, but it was a sense of just being in the space and being around the trees, and
coming on the park run with Caroline and I.
Yes, yeah, that was good.
And you beat us both. And I was in that ease after that second day and so forth. This is the second retreat style I've been on, but yeah, I didn't contribute much question wise either. But I've said previously on the shows that the questions that people ask in the classes resonate with you anyway, and the clearings. And if you want to know what the clearings are, you need to get yourself to a foundation class, or you need to learn access consciousness, and you'll find all about it on their website. I don't think I said it, www.accessconsciousness.com. And yeah, it's funny how it's all the energy that it does create space in you, even though you haven't asked the question. That's what I find amazing about it.
Yeah, because it's just a space of awareness, and when someone asks a question, quite often a lot of other people in the class have that same thought as well. And it's like, yes, thank you for opening that up in me. So then we use the tools to clear it, and then every time you clear it, you feel that little bit more clarity of mind.
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it, because I yes, when I arrived, I was really foggy in my mind, and like I said, I think I've met a few people that have come across access, and we've all seemed to have done lots of different modalities prior to getting to access. And I find access the one modality that is more resonates with me, and that's just like, I don't know, I think it should be taught in school. Really.
I think I felt that too, being like for Ashlee, it was her biggest class as far as number of people, and I got the feeling when everyone arrived, everyone was a bit apprehensive and a little bit unsure, or I can't quite find the word for it, but there was this sense of what is this going to do for me? And then by the time we got to about halfway through, everyone started, the walls and barriers started coming down. People were opening up more. There was this sense of ease starting to come across everyone, and everyone was just starting to feel a lot comfortable around others, rather than when we first got there, everyone was in their little, oh, do I say something or do I not? And then as the foundation went, and this is what usually happens when you start, you might have some questions in mind, and then if those questions are getting clear, start opening up a bit more, and you get involved with the group, and then the group kind of revolves and evolves, and it's such a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to the end, no one wants to leave. It's kind of like we've come this far in such a short space of time, and don't want it to end.
Yeah. But you've got all those tools that we've been taught in foundation to take home with us and to continue to use, which is the beauty of it. And we have a manual as well that we can refer back to, and all the recordings and everything, which is just amazing. So yeah, that was I think I said, I can't remember what I say on these podcasts. I think that was my second foundation, and it just happened to be with Ashlee again. I did my first foundation with her. I just love the way that she I haven't done it with anybody else, I just said that. But I just love the way her approach, and she's got a lot of, oh, there goes my curtain. She facilitates a lot of the access consciousness classes, so she's sort of got a lot in her repertoire, and she can she manages to really crack you open, I guess, to a degree, which I love. And I just, yeah, it was it was really good for me. I've, you know, got a bit on this year, and it was something that I felt that I needed to reset. Instead of going to a health spa for 4 days, I think going to a foundation retreat is the best reset anybody can give themselves. What do you think?
Yeah. Yes, I think it was the bonus of having the retreat, where in past foundations you'd have to find separate accommodation, and you kind of get a bit detached from the group a little bit, which is kind of good if you're processing a lot of things.
Yeah.
Some people like to have sort of, sometimes they leave the notes and then they come back to it later in the after the class is finished. Just go for a bit of a walk or a bit of a meditation or something based on what they learned during the day, and any questions you write down for the next day. But being in the retreat, everyone was, again, it was kind of, as the retreat kept going, people were more willing to talk to other people and mix with other people rather than just sit in the one spot all the time. And around the dining table, I think everyone sort of kind of tried to move around and sit with different people as it went on, so you get to be around different people.
Yeah.
And the food was really good. We all
It was.
we all embraced something that we may not normally have, and that's what consciousness is about, is sort of pushing some of those walls and boundaries that we may have with certain things, and looking at it with fresh eyes and going, it's not so bad. And for a male, from a male's perspective, it can be harder to open up and show your vulnerability and be willing to open up. So for any males out there, don't disregard foundation as hocus pocus. It's it truly does work. And I've had Christopher Hughes do a foundation. I attended one of his foundation classes.
Oh, wow.
Which was my one 12 months ago. I did with Christopher Hughes. So that was from a male facilitator's perspective.
Yeah.
So that was good for me to be in that one. So yeah, so for those out there listening, just don't disregard foundation,
or access consciousness at all.
Or access. It does work. It may not in the beginning, and you might think, oh, nothing's happening, but then all of a sudden a situation will come up where you might have reacted to before, but instead you look at it a bit differently and you go, okay, so that's what this is about. And it makes you look into more tools, and there's lots of YouTube videos out there by Dr. Dane and Gary Douglas.
And I don't think we've explained, actually, Gary Douglas was the founder of Access Consciousness. I think it was 95. And Dr. Dane here, who Mel just spoke about, is the co-creator of Access. And yes, there's lots of free YouTube videos everywhere. And it's simple, isn't it? It's just a simple process. It's something that I think sometimes we make life too hard, and we believe that we have to do, and we have to do this and we have to do that, but realistically we don't have to do anything. We have to have fun.
I always say it's all about it, what we choose, and in Access we include everything and judge nothing. So there's in Access there's no judgments. It's just choice of possibility, and what might work for one person may not work for someone else, but then they'll find the tools that suit them the best.
And yeah, and thank you for bringing that to the show. I didn't talk about any of the tools, but choice is different for everybody, and that's why one you know, a choice that somebody makes won't work for another person, because everyone's so different, and we're always choosing differently for us, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity. I attended Dane's Keys to Unstoppable last weekend, and on top of doing the foundation, that was pretty amazing. Just to see him in person rather than on the YouTube.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got so much out of that as well, and had the recordings of the class, and just helped to reinforce that the access consciousness is definitely what I'd like to strive to live by. And he said towards the end that we've always got ups and downs in our lives. And with access, you can be on a high, and then something will come along and it will challenge you, it will push you. Rather than falling completely flat on your face, we've got the tools to pick ourselves up and keep us creating and choosing, and rather than letting ourselves completely fall to pieces, we've got those tools there. We can ask the question, and what is this, and what can I do with it, and can I change it? And once you start doing that, the universe listens, and sometimes it gives little clues. Something might happen and go, oh yeah, that's what I asked for, and it shows up, and so it's yeah, so that's what I've found from it. And when I left the retreat, I was such in this amazing space, and I made a promise to myself to try and stay in that space as much as I can, and as I feel myself being pulled out of it, use the tools to clear it and come back into that space. So I know what space is right for me now.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
So,
and I love that you brought in the question, and access is all about question. And I think when you're talking about, you know, being on a high and then a low, I think when you just feel like you're in that little bit of funky space, just asking a question in general, like, it just takes you out of it. You know, like you can say, you know, it's not like a why am I feeling like this, but you know, it's like, what else is possible? That's a great question, isn't it? Really, what else is possible? That's probably one of the best. One of the best questions to ask.
Quite often, being the people that we are, we take on judgments and points of view from others. So another great question, and it's a tool that you can find on the YouTube called Who Does This Belong To? So that's another very powerful tool from Access Consciousness. And every thought you ask, who does this belong to? And if it's a heaviness that lightens it, it's not yours. And then we just clear it, and then it should, and then each time you ask, it should be getting lighter and lighter until you feel like that judgment is gone.
Yeah, so if that's right, if it doesn't feel like it belongs to us, we can return it to sender with consciousness attached. And I just you just reminded me of after the New Year's like New Year's Day, second day or something, that's when I started to get really funky for some reason. I haven't felt like that in a long many years. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm using all my other modalities, you know, that I use. And then it just dawned on me. It was like, oh, who does this belong to? And it was all what I said before, all the New Year's resolutions that people are probably making all over the world. And and I'm sort of like feeling all of that because I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I do a lot of like stuff about it, like, you know, not why people make them and break them and all this sort of stuff, and that's where I started feeling all that heaviness. And when I said, who does this belong to, I'm like, oh no, it's not even mine. So when I sent that away to with consciousness attached to it really like cleared a lot of that ick, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, this is amazing.
And I mean, in some areas, it doesn't necessarily mean what someone has said or done is acceptable. It means that we're no longer going to carry that judgment on us, on our shoulders anymore. And that's what the questions do. It's not so much as you're pointing the finger at someone and saying you were wrong, you know, I'm right or whatever. It means that I'm choosing a different path now, and I'm going to carry that stuff anymore. And when you say a return to sender, it's not necessarily mean you want ill towards that person. It means that those words or that action is no longer going to affect you anymore.
That's right.
And as soon as you do that, you start to feel more what you feel like, rather than what someone else has said.
Yeah, exactly. You feel like you're being you, which is a book that Dr. Jane wrote, Being You, Changing the World. So that's a good book. So Malcolm, thank you for being on the Foundation series. And we're talking Foundation, but there's a lot of other access stuff that came into this today, which is awesome, like access bars. When Mel mentioned that's sort of the entry level into access, I guess. And which it's truly amazing. I've done some bars work on I'm traveling around a little bit. It's some bars on some people recently, and they just like, wow, you know, and the bars is 32 points on your head that you basically store all the crap that you've been taught and you've believed, and all your judgments and so forth. And basically when you get your bars run, it just clears it. It's just amazing.
So I've actually towards the end of 2019 I became a bars facilitator. So I haven't as yet had a class, but I am looking to try organizing classes again.
And we need that for the listeners and the viewers, because the prerequisite to doing a foundation class is to do a bars class. So organize your bars class, Val. And I'm traveling around a little. It's a little bit tricky for me at the minute, but I'm still running bars on people. So if you go onto the Access Consciousness website, you can find all the bars facilitators around town. And Mel's you are in Springwood area, which is southeast Queensland.
Yep.
Near Brisbane.
Sort of, they call it Logan City area. So south of Brisbane City.
Yeah. So we're talking in Queensland. So if anyone's around listening that's around that area, when Mal puts his classes up on the Access website, you'll be able to find him, and that will be really sweet.
Yeah.
So thanks for
one other thing for the listeners, that they recommend before attending the bars classes. There's a video that Dane's put together called the Clearing Statement. It's at first it sounds a bit gobbledygook, and you wonder what the hell this is. But if the listeners can, at least, you might have to watch it a couple of times, because I had to watch it a couple of times. if the listeners go onto the clearingstatement.com, Dr. Dan gives a good breakdown of what it means. Give it a try. They say it's a magic wand, and it does help, because a lot of the questions and a lot of things we add this clearing statement. So if you get a little bit of an idea, even if you don't really understand it, if we just say it or just pod and pop certain stuff, it will clear and remove that magnetic imprinting that judgments have on us.
Yes, and it does sound a bit gobbledygook, doesn't it? And it's just, it is sort of magical, because we don't really know how or why or anything, but we know that it works. So thank you for that, Mal. Thanks for sharing that, and I appreciate you being a contributor to my show.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Oh, my pleasure. So we'll see you, I guess. Bye. That's the end of the show. Bye.
Bye.